Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Fujii, and I'm the young fellow working on nuclear disarmament and Pentagon spending issues here at FCNL. I was born in Japan and grew up attending schools in both Japan and the United States. From a young age, I was concerned about violent international conflict and the horrors that nations at war inflict upon people, often vulnerable civilians. My deep concern for these issues grew out of an understanding of my personal family history. My father's home country, the United States, fought my mother's home country, Japan, in World War II. Not only that, but my mother's family was deeply impacted by both the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Growing up, I heard stories from my mother, the same stories she heard from her mother, about what it was like in wartime and post-war Japan. Food was so scarce that people were eating insects. Everyone under the age of 12 was sent away to the countryside, including my grandmother. When the United States dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, it killed my grandmother's aunt and a close family friend. A second aunt died 3 years later from radiation-related illness. Her third aunt survived simply because a large, heavy wardrobe stood between her and the blast. And a few days after the bombing, my 11-year-old grandmother visited Hiroshima to take care of the dead. What she remembered were the maggots crawling on the dead bodies. When the United States dropped a second bomb on Nagasaki, it destroyed the medical school where my grandfather was a student, killing his teachers, fellow medical students, friends, and relatives. My grandfather survived because he was away that day, but he never spoke about what he saw when he returned a few days later. I understood the impact of war on everyday people, something I think many Americans often forget. I also understood the grotesque reality of nuclear weapons and their indiscriminate nature. In college, I had the opportunity to work with the Research Center on Nuclear Weapons Abolition at Nagasaki University, mere blocks away from where my grandfather was a medical student. I was inspired by the many activists, young and old, working hard to realize a world free of nuclear weapons. When I learned about the Friends Committee on National Legislation and our work on nuclear disarmament and excessive military spending, I saw an opportunity for me to learn how to leverage my status as an American to work on American policies that affect the people the world over. COVID-19 has certainly changed how I do my work as a young fellow and lobbyist. I'm working from home here in Brooklyn, New York, and my meetings are all done online via Zoom. However, it has highlighted some truths about our increasingly interconnected lives today. Firstly, what happens across the globe can directly impact you here. COVID-19 does not care about national borders. Neither will nuclear weapons, should even a so-called small nuclear exchange occur, plunging us into nuclear winter. COVID-19 reminds us of the great need for international cooperation to ensure everyone's health and safety. Secondly, our most urgent problems cannot be solved by the military. Our federal budget is misprioritized, and we are wasting money thinking that weapons will keep us safe and healthy. Additionally, white people's growing interest in racial injustice has opened the space to discuss the many ways in which American foreign policy perpetuates the racism and white nationalist ideologies this country was built on. In the nuclear field, more people are talking about how communities of color, especially indigenous communities, have largely borne the health and environmental effects of nuclear weapon use and testing. More people are aware of the double standard when possession of nuclear weapons by majority white-led nations is seen as responsible and acceptable, while possession of nuclear weapons by any other country is seen as the threat to humanity that it is. I believe this landscape has potential to drastically change how we approach nuclear disarmament and Pentagon budget issues. While the Hibakusha wish for a nuclear weapons-free world seems like a far and distant reality, even with the entry into force of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, I look forward to continuing to work to arrive at that safer and more just future. Thank you.